Welcome to Leap Listens. I'm Sarah McGregor.
And I'm Roger Kalis.
Leap Listens is brought to you by Leap Create. We are a people communications agency and we work with organisations to help communicate their culture, to attract and recruit candidates and to engage and retain employees. So today we're joined by Izy Cowling. Welcome, Izy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Izy, tell us about you and your role at Penguin.
Thanks. So I've recently been brought in as the employer branding specialist at Penguin around 2 months ago to support the UK head of recruitment and the director of organisational development and talent, which is a bit of a mouthful. I started in the publishing industry originally after a master's in digital culture and contemporary literature, which, if you know the industry, is quite a classic route in, I'd say. I moved from publishing to comms and employer branding in-house within the healthcare industry a few years back. And just before this, I started a role as the employer branding lead for an RPO who wanted to establish an employer branding offering for their clients. Penguin, if you don't know them, are the leading global publisher and part of the Bertelsmann Group, which not many people do know, I think. I think it's fair to say they're an iconic, quite a reputable brand. But
Absolutely.
They are a lot more than the kind of classics or the children's books, which most people might associate them with. You know, if you've seen some of the most recent books like the Michelle Obama book, the Richard Osman series, Prince Harry's book, which is coming out soon, we publish books for everyone and some of the biggest books out there. But also a really wide-ranging kind of product and service offering, like digital publishing, so ebooks, audiobooks. We've got a big literature and colour programme, which diversifies the curriculum. You know, they do outreach events and brand partnerships, and there's a whole raft of things that go on there, which people might not know about. More generally, I'd say they're a brand who, it's become apparent to me that they're really aware of their responsibility as the kind of leader in the industry, and they feel a real strong sense of creative responsibility, which I'd argue they act upon quite purposefully and quite tangibly. I'm sure if you wanted to read more about that, you can go to their company site and they list all of their kind of social impact initiatives and stuff. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Thanks, Izy. So with employer brands, a company or an organisation will have an employer brand and culture, regardless of whether they invest in that or not. So you're the first employer branding specialist at Penguin. So tell us about that and the opportunities and challenges that you're going to be facing.
Yeah, of course. So for a lot of people who want to be in the publishing industry, which is quite a lot of people, especially in the UK, I'd say Penguin are definitely a destination brand. They're an employer of choice, and that can bring opportunities and challenges too. So in most of their roles, particularly in kind of editorial or a lot of the common roles you'd expect, they don't struggle for application volume. But what they do struggle with is kind of setting expectations and also making sure that our employer brand, though aligned with the corporate brand, has a kind of a voice, a reputation, a purpose of its own. So,
just quickly, when you say setting expectations, are you talking about with the candidates?
Exactly. So you might have, a very glamorized idea of what that role looks like. We've all watched movies and TV shows of publishing and kind of working in magazines and books. And often, say if you take an editorial role, you could be reading 5 books a week. That might sound lovely, but that's actually a lot of work. So yeah, there's a whole load of things that candidates just might not know about. So yeah, making sure that your employer brand has its own voice. And it's not to say that employer brand hasn't been done before this kind of dedicated role. It absolutely has to some extent. We've got online content out there. We've had events, we've had kind of social impact work, but it's definitely an opportunity to put some structure around the work and put some purpose around our efforts, which I think is much needed. What is nice is that, which I see as a real opportunity, is that employer brand is valued and understood by the organisation. Our stakeholders, my sponsors, not just my managers themselves, but, the leadership team see the value of it and want to invest in it, which, isn't the case at a lot of organizations. And they, as I said, they kind of see their responsibility. And so this is a really nice opportunity to further the diversity and inclusion work already being done. They've already made considerable efforts to break down barriers into the industry, partner with social enterprises, charities, demystify roles, as we were kind of talking about. And so it's an opportunity also to speak to people who might not look to the industry. If you're in tech, for example, you might think, okay, an industry that's traditionally print-based, what could I have to offer there? They might not have the best tech stack, I don't know. And actually, that example, you could have a huge impact on a business that's committed to long-term digital transformation. That might actually be more fulfilling than working at Google, I don't know. So yeah, there are challenges, definitely, but there's so many opportunities. So it's really exciting.
That is really exciting.
So what was it that attracted you?
I'm really glad to have agency experience. It taught me so much, especially kind of commercial skills. But I really like dedicating myself to a brand and being able to see your efforts through and see how the different work streams can tie in together. So that was a big sell with kind of going back to in-house work. I really gelled with the team and appreciated their kind of transparent approach to an almost PH creative style model of employer brand, which is like the give and the get. So what do you expect from working with us, but also what are you required to put in? And that's where those kind of setting expectations conversations come in. I also, just generally appreciated the sophisticated understanding of employer branding as more than just to like sell the organization to anyone who will listen. Because as I said, they don't really have that problem. It's more a case of getting the right people in who can kind of add a different perspective or who can further our business.
So tell us about the culture at Penguin, Izy.
I think what's nice to think about is it's kind of big and small, to the extent that people are friendly, very capable and enthusiastic. They've got the nice kind of culture you would have in a smaller organization or smaller teams, whilst also knowing that you've got the kind of entrepreneurial, commercial parts of a bigger organization. The fact that we're part of the Bertelsmann Group, for example, means that you kind of have shared resources and you have that structure and security behind you, which, let's face it, in a time, like now, is really welcome. They have like an entrepreneurial spirit in kind of looking ahead, seeing how we could adapt to the changing markets, alongside a genuine like commitment to our mission and our purpose, which is to make books for everyone, because a book can change anyone. And that commitment to inclusivity underpins everything they do so far, and it's not performative from what I can see. There's also a nice pace, I'd say, within a lot of the teams I've kind of spoken to, and definitely in my team. They're looking forward and driven, whilst also being genuinely respectful of work-life balance and other things that add to someone's life outside of work.
Izy, what's the culture like at the moment in terms of are people working hybrid, or is most people in an office or working from home? How's that at the moment?
So from what I know, there is a kind of project looking at the future of work, and it's very much up for debate. Where things are now is that they've realised a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't benefit anyone. There are different teams and different roles where, the nature of distribution work in a warehouse, or, tech, for example, where they are having to be on site, and that will very much be up to the hiring manager to decide what works for them. And that's what we tell a candidate. Whereas where possible, they absolutely want to foster remote working, whilst also investing in the offices, which I think is often the part that's missed. So making the offices a place where if you want to go in, you can go in, you can collaborate, you can do your best work, you've got nice perks, there are social opportunities, but also saying that where possible, they want to offer people that flexibility.
Do you think that there is one overarching Penguin culture, or do you think it's a series of sort of micro cultures depending on which area of the business you're working in?
This is really interesting because I've been doing a lot of persona work for our EVP at the minute, which really, I've been thinking about that question a lot. I'd say there are things that are universally true for the whole business that we can say comfortably you will experience no matter what team you're in. However, the nature of teams, what they're doing, what type of person is required in that role, absolutely, there are micro communities.
That's great. And how have you gone about your persona work? Is it focus groups, interviews, surveys?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
A kind of mixed approach. So we are looking at a kind of external piece to look at the people we don't have in the business, which is, I think, really important because we can't guarantee that all the people we want to hear from are already here. But we've also been doing focus groups and interview sessions with some one-on-one, some group sessions rather, with particularly hard to hire markets at the start. But ideally, we'd love to get to a point where we've had focus groups with all major kind of business areas, because as I said, they've kind of got different motivation depending on what work they're doing.
Yeah, that's great. And as you were only there for like 2 months, is that what you said?
2 months.
Yeah. So tell us about your onboarding experience.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate in that, becoming part of the recruitment team, when I was speaking to the recruiter at the start, it was my manager. So she was recruiting for my role, which was nice because I had a kind of, I guess, an unusual candidate experience in that I was already talking to her about what the role would look like, and she was very transparent because she was hiring for it. So I felt like I could already be a kind of culture add rather than fit, hopefully, to the team. Then I was quite lucky in that they were having a kind of a bake-off experience team away day before I started, after I accepted the job, which was nice. So I joined that before I ever began. So I got to know a few people. And then I'd say I experienced quite a traditional onboarding, very much immersing myself in the business, lots of meet and greets, and very quickly picked up the persona work, which was actually good because I got to meet a lot of the other teams who I wouldn't normally have come into contact with so quickly. Other than that, we've kind of got onboarding company-wide sessions with a member from the leadership team where you can ask questions, and like standard people manager inductions too.
What was your showstopper special?
Oh, of Bake Off? Well, actually, I'd like to proudly claim that we came third with our cake, which we were very, very impressed about, mostly due to...
Out of how many?
Out of how many? Probably 10 cakes.
4.
Not out of 4.
It's pretty good.
And what did we do? We did a 3-tiered ombre cake with chocolate shards on the top, which sounds a lot better than I would argue it looked.
An ombre cake.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable though.
Impressive.
If you're looking for a team away day, would absolutely recommend the Bake Off experience.
Excellent.
Yeah, that does sound great.
So, Izy, tell us about your top reads this year. It's actually a question we're going to ask all of our guests this season.
Not just because I work for a publisher.
Yeah.
Fiction-wise, I'd say Dreamland by Rosa Rankin-G and The View was exhausting. Both incredible books. Go read them if you like that sort of thing. But from an employer branding perspective, I would recommend that everyone goes and reads The Give and the Get employer brand by the PH Creative team, because it just gives you a really nice foundation for transparent and authentic employer brand work and EVP work. And if you are, one of one or new to employer brand, maybe you were a recruiter previously, if you're looking for, support with how to start some of this work, if you maybe don't have the budget to engage an agency, it's really helpful.
Nice. Well, look, that's fantastic, Izy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, and sharing your experience. It was really, really good.
Thank you. Thank you both.
And thank you for listening to our Leap Listens podcast. To listen to other experts in the industry, head on over to our website. That's leapcreate.co.uk, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. And of course, if you have any people communication challenges requiring highly creative solutions, please reach out to me. I'm Roger, or Sarah McGregor on LinkedIn. Thanks very much.